I'm Leonard Riggs, and welcome to my podcast, From My Head to Your Ears. And today I'm going to talk about things that I miss from earlier in my life, things I don't have anymore. And it's not that I'm sad that these things are gone, it's that I'm grateful that I had these experiences. But the whole thing about things being new is what I'm missing, if that makes any sense. Now everything's instantaneous. You want to watch a TV show, you can stream it. You want to hear a song, you can go to the music platforms and you can download it, or you can listen to it, put your headphones on, what have you. But I miss having to wait on things somehow. I miss it, and I don't miss it, I should say, but I look back fondly on Saturday morning cartoons and having to go to the theater to see a movie and having to wait till the radio played your song to hear it, or buying the album and having to go to the store, to the shopping malls. Those were all fun, It was always exciting to get a new record album. It was always exciting to go to the movies and be with your friends or your family, what have you. But yeah, I miss a lot of that. Now, obviously, sadly, there are people that I miss, and that is a sad thing. My father passed away, my grandma Qualls. Both my grandmas, Grandma Qualls and Pearson, are gone. A lot of aunts and uncles and some cousins and some really good friends, and my sister Connie. And, I've lost all those. And again, though, I am grateful that I had such wonderful people in my life. I've tried to make a positive spin out of the whole thing. I think of all things, I miss my father more than anything. He was my movie buddy. He was my best friend, my biggest supporter. He worried about me. I'll never experience that kind of love ever again. As I've stated, I'm currently a caregiver for my mom, and the same goes for her. Even though she's still here, when you're a relative stricken with Alzheimer's, it's a tough thing to go through. She does every now and then acknowledge me as her son to this day, and she's in the deep stages of Alzheimer's, and I think I'm very fortunate. Also, I feel honored to take care of my mom. I can't explain that. And it also gives me a sense of purpose. And I didn't have children, so I don't think you can get through this life without having to take care of somebody. And what a wonderful person I get to take care of is my mom. She is sweet and funny, and I can't even imagine not having to do this anymore, but it's coming. I know that. But I don't want to be sad about things, and I probably will not talk about people so much. More than anything, I'll talk about experiences that I had as a child or a teenager, or in my 20s or 30s or 40s or even early 50s now. I've got all those behind me, so I've got a lot of decades of experience to miss. What's always cool is when things come back that you used to love, that you thought were gone forever. For instance, record albums. Love record albums, vinyl records, and they've made a comeback. And even though listening to a record is hard for me to do, I do have a record player. I have been buying vinyl records more as a collector's item. I only open them to look at the liner notes. As I've stated, I've been a Olivia Newton-John fan for years, and they're re-releasing a lot of her stuff on vinyl. And then there's just some albums that I love that I would dearly love to get on vinyl again as reissues, because I have a lot of my vinyl, but I lost a lot of it in a move, especially my Olivia Newton-John vinyl, which is really horrible. But there were two albums of hers that were kind of the holy grail as a Olivia Newton-John fan, and one of them was the Tomorrow soundtrack. Now, Tomorrow was TV movie. Sorry, not a TV movie. It was a movie that she made with a group called Tomorrow that Don Kirshner put together, who put together the Monkees, as another Monkees. Only this time they would do movies instead of a TV show. And it was not successful and kind of forgotten about and never really was released in the United States. So Olivia went on to record solo and recorded her first album in 1971. And that again was another holy grail of Olivia Newton-John albums. I tried to get that album and had a hard time. I finally got a pristine copy of it just a couple years ago, and now they've re-released the first album and remastered with liner notes and everything, as they did the Tomorrow soundtrack. You can also get that on vinyl, colored vinyl for that matter. So that's wonderful. That was kind of a digressing from what I'm talking about, but it's just kind of funny when everything old is new again. But I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to talk about the things that I miss and the things that are gone probably forever. So I'm going to rest my voice for a minute. I'm still recovering from a cold, but it's a lot better than it was. And I shall return in a second. I'm back, and I think the earliest thing I miss is just the fact that when you're very little, everything is so new to you. Every experience you have, everything you experience, your first Christmas, blah, 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 everything is new and amazing to you. The first time you eat ice cream, the first time you open Christmas presents, the first time you watch television, and you'll never have that innocence again of experience everything for the first time. I think honestly, when you have children, you relive that with your children or grandchildren even. That's a great plus to having children. Obviously, I didn't have any children, so I have gotten to relive things with my nephews and nieces. But that's something you'll never have again. So that loss of innocence and newness, did I just create a word? Is something that I miss. But I do remember some of my first times of seeing, things that were new to me. I think my school years are where a lot of things that I miss. And I don't miss school. I didn't like school. I was a good student, but very socially awkward. I don't look back and remember, I loved sitting in class learning. No, I did not. I hated it. I was bored most of the time. I loved some of my teachers. I loved my friend. Met a lot of friends during that experience. But the school process itself, oh no, did not like it. And I was very socially awkward, very shy, especially early on. I remember I didn't make friends fast. I remember going to kindergarten. Back then you didn't have preschool or that. We had kindergarten. It was just for the afternoon. And first of all, I hated leaving my mom. Hated it. I felt so sorry for her because I was the baby of the family, and I had a good relationship with my mom. And my dad would work during the day, so she was a housewife. And we spent a lot of time together, and I'd watch her clean and this and that. And my mom was such a great housekeeper. Worked very hard to keep the house clean, and she always cooked a great meal. And very much a early 70s mom. She didn't work until I was in the first grade. And she got a job because the economy was getting kind of hairy, and it was going to take two incomes to raise a family of... At that time, my sister Lori had moved out. I have 4 older sisters. My sister Connie was already on her own by the time I was around, but my sister Lori moved out in 1971, so that left 3 kids, my 2 older sisters, Kim and Cindy, and me, and it was just expensive to raise 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids. It was amazing. Plus, my sister Cindy had special needs. She had a hearing problem and needed a hearing aid. There's doctor's appointments, there's this, there's that. It's just the same things that parents face today, and it became necessary for my mom to work, and she didn't care for it too much, but she did have to. But early on, she got to stay home with me before I was in school, and I missed those days. That was an intimate time with my mom. And that's funny because I've got that now as well while taking care of her. So it did come back to me. And I found out later my mom cried when her baby had to go to school. I didn't know that, but I guess I kind of felt it because I really felt bad about leaving my mom when I was really young. But anyway, I would go to school, and I wasn't the most social person in the world. I would often play by myself, and I made a few friends as time went on. I had a little girl that was kind of enamored with me named Melissa, and she really liked me. In fact, when they moved her from my table, we got out of class for a little while because they had an incident with her because she was crying. And I didn't understand that, but I still remember the teachers coming in and having them, grill her as to why that she's so upset that she was moved from my table, because she was just very upset. Oh, we remained friends for all our school years and then after, and she passed away not too long ago, but her last name rhymed with mine. Her name was Wiggs, and mine is Riggs. So we were teased all through school about Wiggs and Riggs. They used to do stories about us, Wiggs and Riggs in outer space, Wiggs and Riggs. We would have these stories. See, we'd have to write stories for, especially like in the 8th grade, and we'd have to present them for our class. And then we'd have to read them out loud, and it seemed like a good deal of them were about Riggs and Wiggs. So we were like, Bogey and Bacall and Madonna and Sean Penn back then. We were just a famous class of, our class was class of 1985, a famous class couple. But we were really only a couple for kindergarten and then 1st grade maybe. But then I met another little girl named Angie that I really thought was a sweetie, and she had these little twinkly eyes, these little, there was a show called Family Affair, and Cindy Brady also had these little pigtails. She had those kind of pigtails, and she was so cute, and her name was Angie, and she also passed away around the same time Melissa did later in life. I was not going to be morbid, but yeah, I miss those people dearly. But yeah, that's kind of funny. But as it came about, being in school, you got summer vacation, Christmas vacation. Boy, do I miss those to this day. Nothing like Christmas vacation and summer vacation and Easter vacation, getting holidays off. Oh man, you don't know when you're in school how great you've got it until you don't have it anymore. I miss those things dearly, especially Christmas vacation and summer vacation. Summer vacation was just kind of a magical time. And I had a tradition with my mom when it began our kindergarten year. Of course, at that time, my sister Kim and Cindy were still in school too. So Mom would go to the bakery and get a dozen glazed donuts, and we would have those. We'd have them on the last day of school, and we'd have them on the first day of school. So first day of school, you go register, and then you come home. So she'd always get a dozen donuts. And later my mom got a job at the grade school as a lunchroom supervisor. So she got to work where we were and have the same holidays off. So it was wonderful for her. There for a couple of times she had jobs that kind of took us away from her, and we had to get ready. My older sisters had to get us ready for school. But I really look back on those days as wonderful now. You don't know what you have till you don't have it anymore. That's true with everything. But we had some great family vacations in the summer. And I don't think my family ever went too far. The farthest we ever went was my 8th grade summer vacation after I graduated 8th grade, and we go to high school. At least we did here. And we went to the Ozarks. We went a trip, and we got to stay in this camper, and all you had to do was listen to their pitch about buying a timeshare, whatever, camper at this lodge. I'm trying to think of what it was called. The 4-star lodge, I don't remember Lucky Clo. I don't remember. Shoot, you'd think I'd remember that. I might later, but it actually was a fun vacation other than having to listen to their nonsense. Plus, they offered a chance for a free VCR, and this was 1981, and my best friend Craig had a VCR, or not a VCR, he had a Betamax. But he had the first videotape recorder, him and another friend of mine named Richard, and those were just like amazing, and I wanted one so bad. But we didn't win the VCR. We won a knife set. I was so disappointed. But, it was a fun vacation. We got to see some of the Ozarks. Of course, it was a tradition for me to get car sick, pretty much wherever we went. Because my dad didn't have air conditioning in his cars. And I would get so overheated that I would just vomit. And it kind of got to be, I always had to pee and always had to vomit when I was a kid. I remember having to pee in a cup. Yeah. My sisters didn't have that problem. It was always little Leonard having to pee in a cup or throw up. So, God, I was a mess when I was a kid, sounds like, doesn't it? I was a good kid, though. I was very shy, as I said before. And I spent a lot of times playing by myself. But I did make friends, and being the baby of my family, I always wanted to be in charge of everybody. I had this big thing, 2 things about me. I had this big thing about wanting to be in charge and wanting to make up all the games and tell everybody what to do, because at that point, my neighborhood was a bunch of girls, and then I was younger than them, and then there was a bunch of boys that were coming along that I was older than, and those were my friends, and I was always coming up with the same silly, goofy things my sisters came up with for them. So I don't know if any of them remember that, because I probably was 4 and they were 2, 3. But eventually, I would have all these people in my yard that were playing. Like, we made a bicycle track, and I convinced everybody that the house across the street from me was haunted. And just little things. I had a huge imagination. I still do, but back then, God, and that came from being the youngest and playing by myself a lot. I could play for hours by myself and come up with little games. And I remember one boring summer afternoon where I used my mom's clothespins and I drew little faces on them, and we had this old wash tub, and I filled it with water, and I pretend that they were jumping in the water, and oh gosh, I mean, I was pretty creative. But later, I think my first school Christmas, I got a bunch of Fisher Price toys, and the little people, the little wooden people. Well, shoot, I played with those till I couldn't play with them anymore. I had a house, a farm, an airport. You had all these little accessories, a school bus. There was also, I love the airport. There's a picture of me somewhere with holding that airplane that came with the airport, the Fisher Price Airport. Oh gosh, I love that. But my holy grail of toys, and not really a toy, I got a record player one year. That was another one I really enjoyed. It was a neat little record player. It had a little mirror thing on it, and when you played the record, if you looked in the mirror, it would make the little cartoon on the record come to life, be animated. It was really neat. But oh gosh, all these Christmas toys are coming back to mind that I got. I always had to have the coolest, neatest, newest stuff. I can remember getting a ghost gun and Hugo Man of 1,000 Faces. If you're not familiar with Hugo Man of 1,000 Faces, look him up. He was this ugly little bald puppet guy who came with a bunch of accessories and wigs and stuff and disguises. He was a puppet, though. You could put your hand up inside him. And I had to have that. And I got him. And Fisher Price toys, like I said. But my holy grail of anything was I wanted a tape recorder. And I guess I just wasn't old enough early on to get one. And I think they were pretty expensive. But when I was, we got one year, and I don't remember how old I was, but it ate the tapes all the time. And we had to take it back, and we never could get one that was worth a hoot. So I didn't play with it too much. Although at that time I'd already played with my cousins and the neighbor kids. But I kind of went by the wayside because it wouldn't work right. So a few years later, one summer, unbeknownst to me, my mom had laid away a new tape recorder, and she felt so sorry for me because I was bored, so bored. She went and got it out. So I had a blast making up scary tapes and talking in it. And it's funny because what am I doing right now? It just dawned on me. I'm pretty much doing the same thing, only I get to send it out to the world for the whole world to hear. That's really cool, isn't it? So I think that falls under that category of old things becoming new again. But having a great imagination made my childhood wonderful for me, because I never, even though I said I was bored, I had the ability to entertain myself, and I thank God for that. There's so many things I did with my imagination. Going into another thing, I miss Saturday morning cartoons the way they were in the 1970s and the early 80s. And I guess it was the 90s for the younger kids too. I just grew out of them eventually. But in the 70s, and I've talked about what I've watched when I was talked about my happy place. Cartoons were my favorite thing, and they really weren't shown every day. I mean, you might have a stray one here and there, but you had to wait for Saturday morning and a little bit on Sunday morning to see your cartoons. And Saturday mornings were just magical. And I loved Friday nights as well because we got to stay up a little late. Not that I ever made it. I think I might have told that story too. I'd always fall asleep while we watched the horror film on KFVS Channel 12, the CBS affiliate. They always showed the Hammer Dracula movies. I'd fall asleep and wake up screaming for my dad. But Saturday morning would roll around. I don't care how much sleep I got. I was up and at 'em at 6:30 in the morning, and I loved it. I would stay there until we had to leave to go shopping in West Frankfort. I've told that story as well, but I miss those days. And a lot of times, and I found that you can find them on YouTube, they have these Saturday morning previews at the beginning of the fall season where they'd show all the new cartoons. And all three networks did that, NBC, ABC, and CBS. and I would try to watch all of them because NBC was not. I didn't watch a lot of NBC because not until the mid 70s when we got cable, because Channel 6 WPSD Paducah was a distant signal and it didn't come in real clear, so I didn't watch that so much. But most of my cartoons were on ABC and CBS, local affiliates. So I've mentioned that I watched Super Friends and Hong Kong Phooey and Josie and the Pussycats and Johnny Quest and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Clue Club, of course, Scooby-Doo. All those shows mention those things too. And I miss loving cartoons. There was, for a while, they were releasing Saturday morning cartoons on DVD as they were shown in the 1970s. They had the 1980s and so on and so forth. It's kind of fun to relive that, but I wish they would include the commercials that aired. They might. I haven't visited those lately. They might have, because the commercials were always geared at kids. Most of them were cereal commercials, Honeycombs and Fruity Pebbles and Captain Crunch. And I remember, and there's another thing I miss, were the prizes in the cereal boxes. They were always so much fun. And the prizes in Cracker Jacks, which do they still have prizes in Cracker Jacks? Do they still have Cracker Jacks, for that matter? But the prizes were fun in the 1970s. A lot of times you got rings, you got the little tattoos, or they were kind of fun. And I think they're chintzier now. But the cereal box prizes were always amazing. They were just little gadgety things. And I remember my favorite of all time cereal box prize was the little records on the back of the cereal boxes that you cut out and you could play on your record player. Those were amazing because they had one with horror sounds, and sometimes they had music. The Monkees were shown, I mentioned before, on Saturday morning. So sometimes they had the Monkees songs, the Archies, and Saturday. My poor dad, we'd go on. Oftentimes on Saturday mornings, go on a quest to find these cereal boxes that had these prizes in them. And we had 2 grocery stores in town at that time that we went to. There was probably, I think, 3, but we only went to 2 of them: Boland's or Sanitary Market, later Dean's Market, Red and White, so on and so forth. But Boland's is still open to this day, but the Sanitary Dean's Market, Red and White store / long gone. It's now a church, what do you call that? A place where they get together. It escapes me. I'll remember it when I end this podcast. But I miss that. My dad, or I would see some product advertised, like, oh God, I remember Snap and Pops. They were the little white things. I think you can still buy them. You throw them and they pop. And I had to have those. And my dad, we found them at Lotto Savings, which was a little store uptown, a variety store. And I got home and got in trouble really quick because I threw one against the house and it made a burn mark. Whoops. I got into sea monkeys as well. If you don't know what sea monkeys are, sea monkeys were these little, I think it was, what was it, plankton? You put them in water and they were supposed to like sprout little sea monkeys, and it was a lot more exciting to want that than to actually get it because it was just a disaster. And when you got them and you first put them in, you got these little order books where you could order little things for your sea monkeys, like a little village or, a little whatever. And I was just all about it. And they didn't do anything. It's a bunch of dead little things in the jar is all it was. So, yeah. I was always falling for gadgets. I remember also I liked to order out of comic books, and they were always they was always dumb. I mean, what have you got? It was only a flying ghost for $1. You'd get it, and it would be some piece of crap, plastic. My favorite that I fell for was a life-size Frankenstein monster with glowing eyes for $1. I get it, and it's a vinyl poster that wasn't even 6 foot tall. The poster was 6 foot tall that you put on your door, and the glowing eyes were 2 little glowing stickers that didn't even glow that you stuck on the thing. But he looked kind of cool, actually. But it didn't last long. It got tore up, and we didn't even have doors on our rooms. I had a bathroom door. I had to put it on the bathroom door, which the bathroom door was in my bedroom. Yeah, we were poor. That's something I don't miss from my childhood, is the lack of privacy in the house. Yeah, we had no doors. We had a Stoker-matic when I was very young, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a coal stove, and it was in the middle of the living room, took up a huge space. It was warm, but they didn't have doors because that way the heat could distribute through the house. But this house my dad bought as an old shack that was really run down. He rebuilt it, and he had to build a bathroom on. So the bathroom, yes, it did have a door, but the bathroom also was hooked with this bedroom. I'm actually in it now, and you had to go through this bedroom to go to the bathroom, and that's the only room in the whole house that had a door. My poor parents, they had no privacy. I think of us not having any privacy. They really didn't. And there's stories there that I can't tell on here. I shall leave that to never tell. That will not be on my podcast. But, yeah, they had no privacy whatsoever at all. And, matter of fact, my dad closed in our front of our house to make me a bedroom. That room's still there, but I miss that. That's something else I miss, the experience of getting my own room. My poor sisters, being the only boy, my parents decided I needed my own space, separate from the girls, which actually was true, because getting me out of there left Kim and Cindy in the bedroom. They were kind of used to sharing everything, but I feel bad that they didn't have a bedroom to themselves. But they were close in age, and we all fought a lot, but we love each other to this day. But yeah, I got my own bedroom. It was a little bedroom. You closed the front porch in. It was just kid-sized and no door, so I was close to my parents' bedroom. So at night, I was deathly scared of the dark, and I would call for my dad. A lot of times, it used to make my mom furious, and I didn't understand that back then, but I do now. Again, we're not going there. But I always would stay up and watch scary movies and always get scared and always have to call for my dad. And my dad was always there to rescue me. My dad was my hero all my life, including to the day he died. He was always my hero. My father-son things, I miss those more than anything. We would go out. Dad took us all to Andy's Creek, which was a place that he hung when he was a kid. And it was just a little creek. You go out in the boonies, and it was a little creek, and we would skip rocks and shoot BB guns, and we would have a good time. And to this day, when I was walking to lose weight, which I need to do again, by the way, I would walk out there, and that's where I would feel my dad's presence, not at the cemetery, but out at Andy's Creek. And my dad loved that little space so much, and had so many fond memories of him being a child there. So that was his kind of his secret spot. And I took my nephews out there once, and at one point they had trimmed all the trees, chopped them all down and everything, and built a new bridge, and it was kind of sad. But now it looks like it used to, and it's overgrown and kind of wild, and just like it was when I was a kid. Again, everything old is new again, I guess, huh? So, yeah, cartoons. My first movie experience was at the Globe Theater uptown, where my neighbor Sue loaded us all up in her station wagon, and we got to see a Saturday morning matinee. Very first time I saw anything on the big screen. Now, the Globe Theater is still standing in Christopher, Illinois, but it's closed, obviously, long ago. It closed in the early 70s. But that was my first movie experience at probably 3. And I remember seeing cartoons, but I also remember that theater being really run down, and the seats had holes in them and everything else. Kind of sad, but it seemed like in Christopher we just could never have anything nice. But Christopher was not a bad place to grow up. I don't want to say that. In my childhood, it was a really wonderful place. We had the dime store and the Lotto Savings and Kirk's Drugs and the sanitary market. Oh, God, we had so many businesses. My mom's favorite P and Hirsch and Town Pharmacy later. So many B&S cells. So many businesses we had. It was always fun to go uptown. And when I was a kid, I thought that was a big city. We lived, now, mind you, Christopher, Illinois is a town of less than 3,000 people. But to a child, from a child's perspective, it was a city with skyscrapers and taxis, and yeah, in my child mind, that's what I thought. That's something I miss too, that childlike innocence of your perspective was when you're little, everything's big. But yeah, great memories. I really did have a wonderful time as a child. I liked when my friend Craig would come over and we would play. At one point in our teens, we'd make movies in my backyard, and we had a blast. And I was really into making movies. Craig went to SIU and learned how to do animation and all that, but my dad had kind of known how to do that and showed me how. So I didn't tell Craig, because Craig's really good at that, and I was just kind of an amateur. So I thought. Craig actually ended up in the movie industry. But we made a couple of classic films with our 8mm camera in my backyard. That was in my teens, of course. Well, I'm really skipping around here. But kind of my childhood now is all lumped in one big barrel of memories. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite Christmas presents, was my 8mm camera and my projector, because I loved making movies. I made a movie with my neighbors when I was like 8, and I remember being again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about being bossy over my younger friends. And I had this whole movie figured out, and I had my sister in it. She was supposed to walk up with a The End sign at the end of the movie, and she wouldn't quit walking in front of the movie, or in front of the camera through the whole thing. She's just standing there, and I was getting mad at her. And my friends, Mike and Kevin, could do this, where they didn't know what the hell I was talking about. They were younger than me. They were just excited to be on camera, too. Nobody was listening to me. And here I had this, I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to play the villain, and I had this blanket over my head. I wish I could find that film, because I remember it was so awful in my mind. I was like, oh, what a disaster. But it would be funny now, because I really was angry at everybody. I think we captured a true Leonard Riggs Jr. hissy fit on camera. Oh gosh, but that was, I probably was 8, so they were like 7 and 6, and my sister Cindy was, she's 6 years older than me, so she was a young teenager. She wasn't gonna listen to me anyway. It was her baby brother. Yeah, having older sisters was a lot of fun. My sister Lori, Connie was moved out, and actually had Eric, my nephew, and he was just a little bit younger than me, so he was also a playmate. We had a lot of fun playing. As was my sister Lori. She moved out in 1971 when I was 5 or 6, and she had John and Jason, and they were not a lot younger than me. So we actually were all playmates. And Randy Bud, my sister Connie had Randy Bud. And we all played together. Not always all together, but played with me, We would play games and stuff, and I love that. Again, I was kind of bossy with all of them. Because it was a pecking order. I was being bossed around by my sisters, so I was going to boss them. But we had a lot of fun. I remember my nephew John coming home when we explored the tunnel. You had to walk along the railroad track, and there was a big drainage tunnel. Oh gosh, about a half a mile away, and we got down there and got soaking wet. And of course, I introduced him to the house across the street that I said was haunted, which was just a little it was 2 rooms, little abandoned house that actually was owned by some relatives of mine. It was not haunted, just in my imagination. Remember the older kids later on that house proving to us younger kids that it was not haunted, and they were riding their bikes through it and stuff. But, whatever. Oh, man. Well, I'm going to take a break here because my voice is getting hoarse, and we'll talk about more about my things that I miss. And I'll be right back. I'm Leonard Riggs, and I'm back from my head to your ears, and I'm talking about things that I miss as a child, as a young adult, blah, blah, blah. Things that I miss in general. My teen years, of course, I listened to music, and I miss record stores immensely because they were so much fun, especially when you were a teen and you were in the middle of things. You liked what was on the radio, and it was all... Early on, I don't think there was a song I hated. Even if I hated it, maybe I made fun of it. It was still kind of fun to hear it, if that makes any sense. Record stores were fun. I spent a lot of money on music, I'll tell you. A lot of my allowance money went to music, especially the fact that Olivia Newton-John was very popular from the time I was... Well, she was popular through the 70s and 80s, but when I noticed her was after 1979, and then she kind of left the industry, kind of retired a little bit, and kind of faded away, but it was fun to go get her new albums and new 45s. While that lasted, I kind of expanded my musical taste too, not just to her, to Blondie and Billy Joel and Sheena Easton and who else? A lot of other artists that I really like. Kenny Loggins. My teens, pretty much what you hear from the 80s was what I liked. I really liked the radio and liked what they played up until MTV started getting really popular in the late 80s when things started changing. I was liking less and less, and liking what I loved more and more, and liking what they were pushing less and less. Did not like heavy metal. Do not like rap. In the early 90s, I went to country music for a while because that was more like 70s rock with Garth Brooks and the likes of that. I really enjoyed country then, but I miss being able to listen to the radio and really loving everything, and I miss hearing new songs on the radio. I remember Tony Waitkus at CIL would be like, coming up, we've got brand new... Hell, I remember him saying Olivia Newton-John a couple of times. It was so exciting to hear a new song from your favorite singers. And hearing those songs for the first time and trying to take it in. And again, you didn't have the power of immediate replay. You had to wait for the song to come back on the radio again. until you bought the album, which a lot of times they release a single, so you have to get the 45, which you had to wait on everything just because. Seemed like maybe my radio friends can tell me. I think they released the song to radio first, and then maybe a week later, the 45 would come out. I don't think it was an instantaneous thing. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I remember going to Walmart, for instance, and getting Olivia Newton-John's "Twist of Fate" single, which was her last top 10 single, by the way. I remember waiting for the lady to put it on they used to have a little place for popular 45s. And for those of you youngsters that don't know what a 45 is, it was a little record with 2 songs, one on each side, and it had a big hole in the middle, and it was just a promotional single. And it a lot of times had a record sleeve that was really cool. Olivia's "Twist of Fate" was an odd one because it was black and white, had her with slick back hair and sunglasses, not the usual sexy pose for her, but it was very different looking, very avant-garde for Olivia Newton-John. It was a Herb Ritts photo. I think it came from a photo session that was in Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. I found that out later because that's where a lot of those pictures were taken and what they were taken for. So it was kind of cutting edge. But I digress. I could talk about Olivia all day, as you can tell. But I miss that, having to wait for things. I said that earlier. And I also miss, for instance, when the Star Trek movies were coming out, they would have Star Trek specials magazines with posters and all that stuff. I miss all that promotional stuff and the soundtrack albums. And it was so much fun. Mego action figures were the kind of going back on my childhood again. That's where they had the Star Trek action figures, they had superhero action figures, and so on and so forth. Well, they came back not too long ago, and they're reproducing a lot of their old action figure line. So, again, what's old is new again, but they're kind of pricey. But I've been collecting those a little bit just to have. Obviously, I don't play with them. I promise I don't, but they're kind of... I can be a hoarder if I want to. One of these days I'll get my home space organized. But right now I'm kind of in a state. I had to move from my old house on Monkey Street to back to my parents' house where I grew up to take care of. Well, originally it's because my house was falling in and my mom needed help with Dad. And then my dad passed, and then my mom, of course, needs help. That's why I'm here. But I miss all that. It's all different now. And later on in my experiences, I miss the early internet when you had the dial-up. My ex-brother-in-law actually bought my nephew a computer in the late 90s, and I wanted a computer really bad of my own, but they brought it in, and my poor nephew couldn't get on it because of me. A long story, he set us up with Online America, which we had no local numbers to call, so we were using that at first, and we got our phone bill, and it was, oh my God, in the 300s. I had to use my tax money to pay for the bill, but since I ran it up, so it was mostly me. So there was a local internet that didn't cost us anything like that. But the early days of the internet, finding other Olivia Newton-John fans, other Star Trek fans, finding out you were not alone in this world for the things that you loved. And God, I loved the internet when it was new. It was kind of a bummer to have to use dial-up because it was so slow, but you didn't know any better. There was no Wi-Fi and stuff, so you didn't know about faster speeds, and that's just the way it was. And I loved coming home and hearing that modem connect. That noise was amazing. Now it's The internet's right there when you need. Like I said, everything's just right there at your fingertips. Um, I remember making a website called Leonard's View, and it's still there, by the way, leonardsview.com. I haven't updated it in years, but I mostly keep it for the email address, which is a personalized email address. Yeah, I still have to use email addresses, so it's nice to have a custom name for yourself. But I had a blast doing that page as well, website. I bought my own domain, so leonardsview.com, obviously. And it's kind of like the podcast. I kind of started one way, and I found my claim to fame with doing Where Are They Now? TV personalities and radio personalities and stuff about television. I met a lot of really cool people doing those pages. They're still there too, but again, they've not been updated. Had a few famous people that came through our local television airwaves, like Sam Champion and David Rose was on Extra for a while, and he's now in Seattle, where he does Washington's Most Wanted, and he's pretty well known in that area. He was in Cincinnati and was a well-known anchor there too, but he started out at WPSD, our local station, as the morning guy, and I really liked him a lot. And we still chat every now and then. He's a month younger than me, so I made a cool friend there. And I met my friend Lou Jaton at this time, who helped me a lot with my webpage, and local TV legend, the late Tom Butler, actually helped me a lot with my webpage and gave me a lot of support. And I've mentioned Irv Copey. He also complimented me on my website. So yeah, it was a great time in my life when I had that, and I miss the excitement of the internet. It's kind of just mundane now. It still amazes me, but it's not as exciting as it was back then, because it's kind of every day, something you use all the time. But I remember as a child too, they would have, my dad had Popular Mechanics, or there was one similar to that too that he had, but it had a segment of future things coming in the future, and they predicted VCRs and that kind of stuff. But they also predicted TVs that fit on your wall that are flat, and I was fascinated by that, to think that you could have this huge screen. And now, of course, that's come to fruition, and everybody's got a flat screen TV. Again, that's amazing. You pretty much have a home theater in your house. And it's sad when I go by movie houses and I see absolutely nothing I want to see. So, but it's also cool that I can access. I still collect Blu-rays and DVDs. I like to have hard copies of things. Again, I think it's like the vinyl records. People, they kind of yanked that away from us. I don't think people are ready to let go. Cassettes never were my favorite. And CDs were awesome, but there was just something about that big record cover and the smell of the vinyl and all that stuff that I really loved. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Going back to my childhood again, I'm kind of all over the place here. I miss the last day of school. I miss our class vacations. And you kids, if you're listening, enjoy those while you... Do they still do that, actually? But we used to go to places like... we went to West Frankfort Park one year. We went to Heron Park, went to a local lake, Isaac Walton. We went to Wren Lake. We did all these great things. In our 8th grade year, we got to go to Six Flags, and we had a dance at Augustine's in Belleville, Illinois, which was a really kind of swanky restaurant that had a disco floor. I got to dance on a disco floor to Olivia Newton-John in my 8th grade. It was 1981, and disco was on the way out, actually, but disco floors were still there. and the first song they played was Xanadu. And I don't know if my friend Craig requested that. I don't know, but it was ironic, and I was like, I cannot not dance to that. So I got out, was the first one on the dance floor, as shy as I was, and I got everybody else going out there. Don't know if anybody remembers that, but I'll never forget it. And we had a really good time. Got to drink all the soda we wanted at the bar, and we had a blast. And that was the last class trip that we ever took, because you didn't do that in high school. But the last day of school, even in high school, was fun up until your senior year. And I was a little stressed out my senior year because I did not want to go to college. I've mentioned I hated school, and how I was all set to go to Rend Lake. And I honestly, if I was going to go to school, I wanted to go to SIU to study radio and television. But my parents thought it was more logical to go study a trade and go to junior college, and I just did not like that. So had to have it my way, and I didn't go to college. Something I regret to this day. It's probably not too late, but I do not have the attention span to sit in a classroom. I have to take classes and courses for my job, and oh God, it's painful. I think I have ADHD. I just cannot sit through things anymore. I have no patience. So anyway, but yeah, I miss vacations and summer vacations and all that. Wow. For growing up when I did, and looking back on it, we have experienced a boom in technology in the last 50 years that I don't think they'll experience in the next 50 years. But who knows where the world's headed. I find it interesting what I still have yet to see. I know of things like holograms, and I know ABBA has a hologram concert. So it may be possible to see Elvis and Olivia Newton-John in concert later, if they so choose to do those. The possibilities are endless, I guess. Technology is amazing. If we don't screw everything up and into our world, which is a scary thought. But I think I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back. I'm Leonard Riggs, and I'm back. I'm going to wrap it up, but I'd like to say in the last 10 years, 15 years, the things I miss. When I had my house on Mulkey Street, I loved having my own house. That was a dream of mine. And for a long time, it was a dream. A good dream. It seems like it was a dream, but I had my house the way I wanted it. It started out my sister and nephews lived with me, and then I got my house to myself, and that's where I had it the way I wanted it, painted, and got to have a huge Christmas tree thanks to my sister Loretta. And that's when I get a house, the first thing I picture is where I'm going to put the Christmas tree. Excuse me. Now I can't really have a big tree because of my cats, but anyway, that's why these are things that I miss, I guess. Having my house was an amazing thing. I had to give it up. It went into ill repair. My dad couldn't help me anymore because his health had declined, and I'm not handy with that sort of thing. Neither did I have the money. So, but my best friend Brandon lived with me for a long time, and we had a blast. And I grew up with all girls in the house, and also my nephews lived with me when they were teenagers for a while, and we had fun too, along with my sister. And then, of course, my buddy Brandon moved in, and it was like having a brother. And we had all sorts of fun. We would go to Steak and Shake at night, and go shopping at Walmart late at night. And I miss those days because it was fun. And we both work, like, we both worked at convenience stores, and we would get off at the same time a lot of times when I didn't work midnights. And I also miss having breakfast when Brandon would work. He'd pick me up and we'd go out to eat and have breakfast. And he kind of, he was the best friend in my adult life that I ever had. I was the best man at his wedding. So, yeah, he met a nice woman, and they are living in Missouri now. And I miss those days, though, when we were sharing the house. It was a good time. Just wanted to say that. That's some fond memories from my adult life. And I have lots of things that I miss. I miss talking to police officers on my midnight shifts. That was always fun. I've made a lot of friends out of the police officers, some continuing, and maybe one that's not, that really bothers me, but it's okay. It was nice while it lasted. So yeah, I think it's time to wrap it up because my voice is about to leave and I'm going to cough again. So I might do a part 2 of this one too. I really don't take notes when I do podcasts, so that's why they're kind of all over the place. I'd like to. My problem is right now I don't have a place to podcast. I do this in my bed because I have nowhere to go except my bedroom where my cats, I could keep my cats out of here and do my podcast, but I would like a nice desk, a little secluded area where I can get in and sit down and have my tablet by with notes and things and do a more orderly podcast. But I'm learning this as I go along, and I'm enjoying this freestyle while I'm doing it. In the future, I want to do some podcasts with some friends and have guests, and that's in the future. But I'm still learning this even after, I think this is my 18th episode, 18th or 19th, I'll have to look. I've lost track. But thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm really enjoying this. I want to continue doing this for a long, long time. And I hope my audience grows and grows and grows. But I'm enjoying this immensely. And I will do another podcast in a while. So for now, thank you for listening. And I will catch you next time. From my head to your ears, I'm Leonard Briggs.